Bitcoin's price today, it tanked. And it wasn't alone. MicroStrategy and other treasury companies holding Bitcoin are down hard on the day too. But here's the question. Why? Some are pointing to just simple market jitters, others to macro moves. But we do have a proposed reason here stated by Jack Mallers himself. And in a moment, we're going to play you exactly what he had to say. More importantly, we're going to break down what this drop actually means for you and what everyone should be doing right now. So stick around. I'm Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is your weekly session. All right, I want to welcome to the stage my co-host with the most, Mr. Nathan Fitzsimmons of Bitcoin Mentor. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, sir. I'm doing better than others right now. Did you see that YouTube is up to their old bullshit again?
Yeah. It's never fun when YouTube brings down the ban hammer. And unfortunately, it's currently happening to one of our friends. And we're going to be chatting about that in the second segment here. So make sure everybody stays tuned for that, because we could also use your help in getting that reinstated. But let's chat about the news at hand. I hope, we get a mix of people. Obviously, there's the hardcore Bitcoiners that have been around here forever, and we love you guys. Thank you guys for being here. But we're also starting to get a whole host of new people coming in the door, especially with these live shows. And, the newcomers may not be as used to price fluctuations and kind of what's par for the course in Bitcoin land. And a lot of people are coming here actually from a stance of they actually came in through things like MicroStrategy and then are starting to look at Bitcoin specifically. And so for those people, welcome. We hope we can put your minds and hearts at ease here. But let's chat a little bit about what's been going on. So first, let's take a peek over at what Bitcoin is looking like right now. And I'll sneak us off to the side here. So, we're down percentage-wise, not too crazy, shy of 4% on the day, 3.73% on the day, and on a 1 day. And we're sitting at 109, 370, 380, in and around that region as we are doing this live. We had a pretty sizable dump from 111 down to 108.8 earlier today. If we zoom out on the week, it's been a tricky week. We were up feeling pretty good at 117 earlier, and we shaved off at times nearly 10K over the past 7 days. So that never feels very nice. But there's a good old saying, when in doubt, zoom out. So as you get to the monthly, really, we're kind of where we were in late August. So that's not so bad. On the year to date, we're up 17.25%. If you zoom out to a year, we're at up 73%, up $46,000 per coin. And when you zoom to the 5 year, it's a joke. It's 918%, up 98, almost $99,000. So again, when in doubt, zoom out. But let's again kind of take a look at more of the near term, what's happened here. If you're coming in from the MicroStrategy perspective, been a while, but MSTR did drop below the 300 mark today for a little bit. It went down to 292, which might have been a little jarring for some people, especially if you kind of got in on the hype train earlier in the year. We've seen it up quite a bit higher than this before. When it was, what was that? That was back in July. We were seeing in the 400s. If we go back a year again, we did have that big spike back at the end of 2024, 473. And it got close to there in July, but has pretty much been downward since. If you're looking at some of the other treasury companies here, just an example, Semler, on the day, it's down 4.5%. MSTR, by the way, on the day, down 7%. So that's a pretty big hit.
I gotta take a look at that. Can you show me that chart, Ben? I'm still looking at the BTC one.
Yeah. Sorry. I'll so there's strategy here. This is just on Google, but here's our if we take a look just on the 1 day, strategy down about 7%. If I go out to the 1 year, then we can kind of see those spikes. So late 2024, that's when it got up into the high 400s. It revisited the mid 400s in July, but it's been kind of a downward ride since then. And then again, if we're looking at Semler as another example, down 4.5% on the day. But if we zoom out 5 days, not bad, 6 months. But yeah, again, you've got that kind of not looking as nice as you zoom out more. So my general take on treasury companies, I'm not as interested on that front.
Yeah.
I personally don't hold the treasury companies when I can just hold Bitcoin. I know people have different preferences, but I self-custody Bitcoin. I think that's like prime real estate. That is the king. That is the best thing that you can possibly have. So that's kind of where I stand. But in general, let's kind of take a look at what is going on in the market insofar as Bitcoin. And so this is Joe Consorti. He tweeted just today that Bitcoin has had 2 of its 3 biggest liquidation events of 2025 in the last 4 days. $2.75 billion in long liquidation leverage has been wiped. So basically, people betting that the price will go up, and if they're wrong, then they must then go and sell Bitcoin. And so that has huge implications on the price when events like that happen. And so these people get wiped out. They have to sell other Bitcoin, and it tanks the price even further. So it's just not looking good on that front. In terms of, there's this CMC Crypto Fear and Greed Index, and it kind of measures market sentiment. And we're sitting in the fear side of things at a 41. Anything north of 50 goes into the greed range. So it's not like the market is super spooked, but still leaning that direction. While all this is happening, gold seemingly does not give a shit, hitting new all-time highs. And this can have some it can have some implications in and around how the world is perceiving not just macroeconomic events, but geopolitical events. And we'll get into some of that momentarily. But off the top of the show, I mentioned that Jack Mallers had gone on and chatted a little bit about what he thinks, and actually what the former CEO, I think, of BitMEX is thinking, Arthur Hayes. And so let's take a little listen to that, and we'll reflect on it afterwards.
So this tweet from Arthur Hayes: TGA refill almost done. Target is 850 billion. With this liquidity drain complete, up only can resume. Okay, let's understand what's going on here. So the TGA, that stands for the Treasury General's account. So what Arthur is saying is the Treasury General's account refill is almost done. Think of the Treasury General's account like what it sounds like. It's the it's the checking account of the U.S. government. The U.S. government's checking account sometimes needs to be refilled. How do they refill their checking account? How do they refill their bucket of cash? Well, they sell bonds, which is a way of borrowing money from the market. And so when the Treasury does that, what Arthur is claiming is they're draining liquidity out of the system, because a lot of the capital that is in Bitcoin, that is in assets, that is floating around in the economy, then goes to finance the government by buying bonds. Does that make sense? And so every so often, the United States government needs to refill their checking account. And he ends his tweet by saying, once that's done, we can continue to go higher. What does he mean by that? He means we're going to continue to go higher because once the Treasury has their checking account full, they go and spend that money into the real economy. One of the biggest spenders in the economy is the U.S. government itself. And that capital finds its way into Bitcoin, into real estate, into the stock market, into gold, into the economy. And so the Treasury General account is being refilled. That will suck liquidity out of the system. And I think why this excites me so much is Bitcoin continues to be the best expression of fiat liquidity, the best pulse, the best index, the best heartbeat as to how healthy the system is, where the liquidity is, all the way to the Treasury literally refilling its checking account, its money bucket. Just so you guys know, I think that there are serious liquidity issues within the market. We are living in two economies, as I've been saying on this show. There is the ultra wealthy, and then there is everybody else. There are scarce desirable asset holders, and then there is everybody else. And we'll get into that in detail later in the episode. But the everybody else continues to struggle. The Treasury is draining liquidity right now. And I think Bitcoin is reacting to that. And as a Bitcoin holder, that's what you want. You do not want Bitcoin to be like the S&P 500, to be collecting a bunch of passive flows that backs the Treasury market with its bullshit 10% up every single year. That's basically more or less reflecting the increase in M2 money supply. You want Bitcoin to be the escape valve, the exit door, the pure reflection of the devil in the mirror.
Now, I quite like that last quote there. You don't want this to be reflecting, the average stock market movements. You want this to be the opposite. It's meant to be the escape. And so I think that's pretty on point there. Yeah, like are people gambling? Are people longing and shorting and doing dumb things and stupid games, super prizes? Absolutely. Sailor quote here. Short sellers don't understand the use case of digital credit built on top of digital capital because they have never seen it before in the history of capital markets. This was just a couple of days ago when he was on CNBC. Now, in terms of the geopolitical side of things, that could be also potentially spooking markets. There's been a lot of, we'll say, rumblings in and around war. And we see here over at Bitcoin News, Bitcoin down over 4,000 on the day. This was earlier, on the day that Pete Hegseth summons hundreds of generals and admirals for an urgent meeting. People are very concerned. They have no idea what it means. One source says, all of it is weird. Is the newly named renamed Department of War planning for war? And just a couple of, when was this, 2 days ago, we have Donald Trump, and he's saying, after getting to know fully understand the Ukraine-Russia military and economic situation, after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back from its original form. With time, patience, and financial support of Europe, and in particular NATO, the original borders from where the war started is very much an option. Why not? Russia has been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years, a war that should have taken a real military power less than a week to win. This is not distinguishing Russia. In fact, it is very much making them look like a paper tiger when the people living in Moscow and all the great cities, towns, and districts all throughout Russia find out what is really going on with this war. The fact that it's almost impossible for them to get gasoline through the long lines that are being formed, and all the other things that are taking place in their war economy, where most of their money is being spent on fighting Ukraine, which has great spirit and only getting better. Ukraine would be able to take back their country in its original form, and who knows, maybe even go further than that. Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble, and this is the time for Ukraine to act. In any event, I wish both countries well. We will continue to supply weapons to NATO for NATO to do what they want with them. Good luck to all. If that doesn't say hooray war, I don't know what does. But there's also some potential shift in and around this market. So like those are examples of geopolitical spooks that could be impacting price right now. However, it's important to note, and insofar as Bitcoin's price, historically, September has always been the worst month. Average monthly performance of Bitcoin seasonality, average performance of Bitcoin across all years is down almost 4.75%. That's the average. Every other month is green on average. September always sucks. October, sometimes affectionately referred to as Uptober. So we may be on the cusp of Uptober. Shall we see? I don't know. But it's also worth noting, just for those of you into technical analysis, there's an indicator called Relative Strength Index. Here's Joe Carlasare just earlier today saying the last time the 12-hour chart of the RSI on Bitcoin was this low was the April bottom. So when that is low and it's hitting in and around this range here, the very doldrums down at the bottom here, it typically indicates that the price may be close to bottoming out. So this may be kind of like our kind of slap in the face before a bit of a rally. So we shall see. We still have groups like Standard Charter saying, hey, we're still in for 200K. I know this article is earlier, but they've reaffirmed this multiple times. But if you want true signal, true price signal, the best, our good friend Walker America from the Bitcoin podcast, very important. When he speaks, you listen. On January 1st, 2026, Bitcoin will be $221,696. I refuse to elaborate further. I think he's going to be exactly right to the dollar.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think there's a very, very reasonable chance, and I think it's a wonderful little prediction. And there's no need to understand when it comes to price predictions. There's no don't trust, verify. It's just take them at their word and roll with that. It's the best approach to go, at least to feel a little bit better. But no, man, there's a lot to unpack in there too, and it's interesting. Yeah. You're right. There's a geopolitical aspect, and let's not forget that they recently changed the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War, which, funny enough, I heard some people claiming, again, it is a kind of childish and roundabout way of doing it, that rules and things that apply to the Department of Defense would no longer apply because it's no longer the Department of Defense. This is the Department of War. So that may have been a way of trying skirting around some potential control issues or things they want to do. And that feeds into, again, seeing Trump reaffirming and pushing the war in Ukraine is just unbelievably disappointing. And that's just, especially NATO's involvement too. So maybe we are seeing some market response to it, because definitely the probability of a direct Russia-US conflict has increased. I'm not saying it's likely, but the probability has definitely gone up. And then the other thing too, which speaks to gold in that, is that you're right. Gold is an insurance, but it's not really so much a inflation hedge as it is like a chaos insurance is usually how it kind of responds. And interesting, speaking about the liquidity, is that, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but perhaps Bitcoin is selling off because some people need liquidity. Generally speaking, there is a trend, and I can't tell you exactly why, but if you look at when there's chaos in the monetary system, so the banking infrastructure in particular, it tends to happen in March, or it happens in mid-September to October. And we're kind of in that zone right now. It has something, I think, to do with end of Q1, Q3, and we get this kind of monetary bottleneck. If you remember Silicon Valley, that was March. If you remember Lehman Brothers, that was September. So maybe we are seeing some people that are having to come up with some cash, and that's why they're selling Bitcoin in order to basically affirm other positions that they might have. But again, no way of knowing which way that's going to happen. But I did want to say that, and I completely get it. If you're in a position where the price movement, and again, it's only like almost 4% on the month, and it's only 4% on the day, and like a 0.89% for September last time I looked, which historically speaking is fantastic. Then if you're in the spot where this bothering you, and I get it, it's bothering you, you're a little bit worried, you're feeling a little bit shaken, I have the answer. What that immediately tells me is that you're not necessarily in a comfortable state with either your Bitcoin knowledge or maybe your financial position. And the answer to both of those things is go out there and meet more Bitcoiners. Go to the Bitcoin meetups, spend more time with Bitcoiners in the real world, in real life. And the reason being is that, one, if you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, it's nice to actually share these with people who understand it, who can tell you from experience, who can reassure you and help you feel like you're making the right decision. And number two, if you want to get out there and hustle more, find new opportunities, maybe start a new business, really up your productivity, they are the best people to be around. They're inspiring. They will push you to do more, get more, to have a better financial position, to stack more Bitcoin. So either way, if you're worried today, that just tells me you need to spend more time in real life with Bitcoiners.
Yeah. Again, once you've kind of weathered the ups and downs of a cycle, it numbs you a little bit to the fluctuations. I'm going to say that this market, in terms of drawdowns, has not been scary at all from the perspective of somebody that's seen far worse. I think always your first cycle is the most jarring, right? Because you know that there's been cycles prior, and that it's come back, but you haven't experienced it yourself. And once you've weathered that storm, then you kind of understand roughly how things go. But my first cycle was I'm biting my nails and I'm worrying a little bit. I did think that it was going to come back, but like I had no proof that I was right, and then it continued on as it always does.
I think that's actually a really interesting point too, is that part of the reason why being here for so long hardens you to it is because you do reach that I was right moment. You have that moment where you were right. And now going forward, you have that reassurance versus beforehand, you're kind of like, I think I'm right. But you make it through one, you continue. You have that conviction.
Yeah. Now, I will say that this cycle has also been very different than others. There's a number of things. There were some assumptions in previous cycles that were broken already this time around. So one of them was that you never have a new all-time high before the halving. And that happened this year. We went above the previous all-time high before the halving happened last year in 2024. The other thing that was broken in the bear market was that you never go below the all-time high of the previous cycle, which had been 20K. Well, FTX, the exchange, blew up, and there were all these liquidations and all of these problems. All the dominoes started to fall, and the price did indeed go below the all-time high of the previous cycle. It went down to like 15,000. And that was also a pretty panic-inducing moment for a lot of people. People didn't think that could happen. And, well, once again, the presuppositions of everybody were completely shattered. Now, one thing that some people have been assuming is this law of diminishing returns, that every cycle there's going to be less of a percentage return at the absolute peak. And so far, that has remained true. I don't think it will always remain true. And the reason for that is we've got a small subset of the world that have meaningful exposure to Bitcoin. And the price is determined at the edges, right? In the liquid Bitcoin that is on exchanges and that is being freely traded. But the Bitcoin that is actually like packed away for long-term savings doesn't really have an impact on the price until somebody decides to unlock it and sell. Then it can have an impact. But if you're a long-term saver, or if some of these, like Semler is a long-term saver and actually doesn't end up touching the Bitcoin as he's typically said, then that takes it off the market, and that again will have an impact as supply crunches happen, as others replicate what Semler has done, as nation states, should the US go forward on its strategic Bitcoin reserve and others follow suit, that has an impact at the edges. When the liquid supply begins to thin out, the only option at that point is either for old holders to sell because the price is appreciated enough, or for the price to continue appreciating more. And I think at that point, that's when we break the diminishing returns assumption. Because again, so few people in the world have meaningful exposure to Bitcoin that actually use it as a portion of their net worth that really matters for savings, that I think that will very much change over time. Everybody's going to have either direct exposure through self-custody, which I highly encourage. And actually, while I'm talking about that, if you don't know how to self-custody, scan the QR code or go to btcsessions.ca/learn. There's free tutorials on how to use Bitcoin wallets and secure things properly. Just start with the beginner stuff, go from there. But I digress. There will be people that have direct exposure to Bitcoin with self-custody. And then there will be people that have exposure to Bitcoin because their retirement is partly allocated to it, and they don't even realize that the fund that they're in is exposed to Bitcoin. And I think that exposure to Bitcoin is going to grow to the size of things like precious metals over the coming years. And then I think things like real estate that people traditionally park money in will begin to be less of a vehicle for savings, and Bitcoin will take a bite out of that. Precious metals, equities, all of that. So I think we're headed in that direction. Would you echo that?
Oh, 100%. I very much kind of subscribe to the idea that at some point in time, we'll have a preference cascade. And kind of what I'm referring to is think about all the times we have like a big cultural moment and then everyone's an expert on the subject. They're all kind of invested. You see like everyone kind of get on one side of the ship. Think about how fast everyone was an expert in vaccines and masks and things too. They're very confident in their opinions. And think of how fast even the Soviet Union fell, right? In terms that everybody was on board with that idea. They just were kind of hiding their thoughts about it prior. And you will have that moment. You'll have that kind of psychological, cultural moment where everybody's an expert on Bitcoin and everybody's into Bitcoin. And you'll see a rush like you've never seen before because it is really a fundamental shift, usually triggered by some sort of a catalyst. But even to the earlier point about like this cycle being different, which is famous last words. And I still think the most interesting thing will be the thing that happens. But we have the ETFs this time too. You have a whole bunch of treasury companies. We have BlackRock. We have Fidelity with their ETFs. Those are different types of buyers with a different type of behavior. And you would expect to see at least some sort of an impact on price movement, both to the top and to the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the long and the short of it is, if you're watching this, if you clicked because you're like, oh my God, it's tanking, what do I do? Breathe, relax. Continue to, if you want allocation to Bitcoin, if you want to own Bitcoin, then own Bitcoin. And the ups and downs should be irrelevant to you because you're holding it for a long time or you're using it day to day. And either way, the best formula for success is provide value to others, spend less than you earn, and save in a money that no one else can print. And over a longer period of time, you will be doing great. So learn some self-custody. Now, we are going to change gears here. We are going to jump into the next section in just a moment. If you're new to the channel or if you're returning and you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and for sure drop a like on the video if you're enjoying the conversation so far. It is hugely helpful. Now, earlier this year, I was banned from YouTube. Middle of the stream, myself and Nathan were on here, and just everything shuts off. We were still on X, but YouTube said no dice, and they just made the channel disappear. But luckily, enough people put up a big enough stink that actually, I've had this happen before, twice before this latest one. And those ones took days, if not longer, to be reinstated. This one was 10 hours. And it was because of the people watching and all of the people on the internet that put up a big stink about it. Well, one of our friends has had the same thing happen to him. And we would love your help in helping get him reinstated. So we're going to chat about it and censorship in general on the other side of the hop. So we'll be back in just 1 minute. We'll see you guys in a sec. Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC Sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions.
If you've been around Bitcoin for more than a minute, you've definitely seen something made by Crypto Cloaks. Since 2017, they've been the go-to for badass 3D printed Bitcoin gear, from custom home mining rigs to sleek hardware wallet mounts that make your setup look pro. I've been stacking Cloaks gear for years, and most recently I grabbed their Gamma case for my miner. Let me tell you, it turns some heads. You can customize everything, and of course, the legendary Bitcoin grenade, yeah, that's them. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code to visit CryptoCloaks.com and stack your own custom Cloaks gear today.
DEBIFI is the best and easiest way to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Funds are held in a multisig escrow where you hold a key, and the platform allows for excellent hardware like the Cold Card Mark IV and the Q. You have access to flexible conditions, the best rates, and institutional grade liquidity. If you're looking to make use of your capital, don't sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. You can head over to DEBIFI.com to check them out, or simply scan the QR code on the screen. All right, we are back in, and we need to chat about our friend here that unjustly and with really poor timing was just booted from YouTube. And of course, we're talking about our buddy Luke here. So if you haven't seen Luke, he does a lot of live streams, chats a lot about Bitcoin, actually also has a travel channel, which was unfortunately far undersubscribed, but it was very cool. I quite enjoyed it. He talks about visiting different countries and tips and tricks on things that he liked in the areas. I think we should get more Bitcoiners branching out and doing more things like that. I quite enjoyed it. Anyways, Luke just got married. He said, he posted here, after dedicating my entire life to YouTube, all 4 of my channels just got deleted for, quote, dangerous content, which, side note, was the exact same reason we got, with 0 warning, dangerous and harmful content. Yep. He said 5 years, 4 channels, 6 million views, all dedicated to helping people understand Bitcoin, always following the YouTube guidelines. I married my wife on Sunday. We're expecting a baby this year, and our entire futures are built on YouTube. Team YouTube, please review. Feel like this has to be a mistake, as I don't even have a strike on my channel. Again, same deal over here. We didn't have a single strike.
No strike, no warning. Yeah.
It disappeared. And so anyway, there's him and his lovely expecting wife. You know, what a way to dampen the mood. What's supposed to be one of the best days of your life, and then shortly thereafter, your entire livelihood put on notice, which is just super crappy. So what can you guys do? If you can, go, if you're on X, please go and give him a retweet. So his handle is at Luke Mikic, which is MIKIC 21. And give that a retweet. Make sure you tag YouTube, Team YouTube, YouTube creators, I believe. There's a number of YouTube handles. Just let them know that it was a big mistake and that they should reinstate it. It goes a long way. And they're not the only, Luke isn't the only person to be subject to this, but you know, the latest in a slew of examples. Of course, our friends over at Simply previously got banned. Luckily, they got reinstated after a few days. But yeah, you know, while they were banned, if you would have searched Simply Bitcoin, they literally had scams, like live stream scams, that were fake, like MicroStrategy and Semler streams with QR codes to send Bitcoin and everything that were aired if you searched for their, instead of their actual channel, which had actual content that they were doing, which was absolutely ridiculous. Beyond that, there's different types of censorship that happened too. Good friend Efrat, her Telegram got banned. You know, I was talking to her on Telegram, then all of a sudden this account doesn't exist, and she posts this. Furthermore, she got deplatformed from Stripe for her blog payments and everything like that, which again, you know, luckily we have freedom money. We can use Bitcoin, but yeah, she got booted off there. And so, yeah, even her credit cards, it's just so useless because she travels a lot and uses eSIMs and can't get SMS messages for confirmations of everything. It's an absolute mess. And again, like, here's the tweet from when was this again? April that it happened. Yeah, we just all of a sudden disappeared. This was actually, sorry, the one from the previous cycle.
Oh, that was 2020.
2020. Yeah, so it happened 3 times to me. It happened I think 2017, 2020, and then this year. But yeah, so this
always a bull market, eh?
Yeah, typically, because nobody gives a shit in the bear market. So yeah, so this was one of the times. But yeah, we, again, like the most recent one, like 9 years where the stuff would have been just completely wiped clean. And now it's worse because it's not only me, it's Nathan. We've got a whole team in the background that is helping put together stuff. It's really detrimental. And I do want to mention as well that often the response will be something like, well, you should migrate to other options and everything. And I absolutely do utilize other platforms. Like this video will be up on Spotify as well, and in audio form. This does go live to Rumble as well, and I really love the censorship, the lack of censorship that Rumble has dedicated themselves to. And of course, Nostr is another option. Nostr actually being censorship resistant, and that's very, very important. The thing that we run into often, though, is especially with a channel like this, who are we trying to reach? Well, in part, like, yes, the Bitcoiners that we know and love are going to show up and celebrate and have fun with us. But one of the main goals of the channel is to reach new people and teach them best practices and get them to self-custody and learn all of these awesome tools so that they can be self-sovereign. Unfortunately, if I go to something like Nostr that is truly censorship resistant, I'm preaching to the choir. Everybody on Nostr already knows what's up. They already know, yes, we should use self-custody. We should get ourselves a hardware device to secure our Bitcoin. We should do all of that. And so I'm not reaching the people that I need to. Rumble has not yet, especially for pre-uploaded tutorials and stuff like that, it doesn't get the reach that I need. There are a lot of people on Rumble. I've not yet been able to break through and get some viewership on there. And Spotify, it lends itself to this format, but not to tutorials. And so it's tricky. And so if you want to catch new people, you got to go where people are. And unfortunately, that comes with some draconian, shitty censorship. So YouTube, do better. Come on, guys. Like, you get your stuff together. Now, Google is no stranger to censorship. In fact, they admitted it 2 days ago. So let's take a quick peep at that, because if ever there was a timely and relevant story, it is this. And here we go. Google admits censorship under Biden. Promises to end bans of YouTube accounts of thousands of Americans censored for political speech. So they admitted the following: the Biden administration pressured Google to censor Americans and remove content that did not violate YouTube's policies. The Biden administration censorship pressure was unacceptable and wrong. Public debate should never come at the expense of relying authorities. The company will never use third-party fact checkers, and Europe's censorship laws currently are targeting American companies and threaten American speech, including the removal of lawful content. Now, Odell was on the show last night, and he had an interesting thought on why this came to light now. And in part because of the censorship laws in Europe, Matt Odell said it's likely that they went to the government and said, hey, Europe is really screwing with us. Like, we need some backup. And the current administration probably was happy to help, but hey, first, can you publicly clarify what happened under the Biden administration? I feel like that was probably a condition of the support of the government with this one. And I don't think that story would be too far off from the truth. Again, it's speculation, but I could see something like that happening. Either way, YouTube, no stranger to censorship. And so, again, the answer is to use censorship resistant tools when you absolutely need to. But when you're trying to get the eyes and ears of people that are still inside the matrix, it's tricky to get them if you don't step into the matrix yourself. even Morpheus had to go into the matrix to get Neo, right?
Yep, 100%. 100%. And on that point too, I mean, the thing I was thinking about is that, like, I have a collection of books. I have a little library, and I stack as many as I can. And I haven't necessarily read everyone to completion, or even read some of them at this point too. But it's good to have that repository of knowledge kind of on hand. And similarly, guys, like, this channel's already been hit 3 times with no strikes, no warnings, just all of a sudden, boop, disappeared. And we're working on branching out more, building up redundancies. But if there are tutorial videos in particular that you think are of incredible value, or that you're currently working on, or that you want to have in your own personal library, download them. make sure you got those on hand. You never know what's going to happen, and we are dependent on YouTube for to be able to come and see that.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, we're working on redundancies and ways of self-hosting. You know, I really want to build that learn page, which, by the way, again, I'll stick it up there because I think it not only is it a useful resource right now for Bitcoiners to kind of level up and learn all of the relevant tools, but it's going to become even more versatile and well fleshed out in the future. And I think the way that we're going to play it is, yes, we'll be able to mirror and put up the YouTube videos, you know, embedded there, but we'll also self-host and we'll have a redundant copy. So should YouTube come along and yoink it, if we can establish that page as like a mecca for Bitcoin education, well, great. Then we can swap it in with our self-hosted if we ever need to do so. So I don't know, Nathan, in the front of on the front of censorship resistant, what would you say are some of the most useful tools that people should take a peek at, whether it be financial or speech, or what comes to mind for you?
Well, bit chat I think is really important, and particularly if that's more of like a shit hits the fan locally. It's a way that you can communicate without using the internet with one another. You need to explore the Bitcoin privacy tools. So, and that can be as simple as just getting comfortable with Lightning and Liquid as well too. And you don't want to necessarily have your life savings there. There is a trust trade-off, but they do offer some privacy and they're quite easy to use. So Liquid, Lightning, grab AQUA Wallet, grab the Bull app. There's tons out there that are available. Get LB on your own self-hosting is really easy to set up and fun as well too. And then beyond that, you know, you've spoken about this a lot too, and it even came up in the conversation last night, is that one of the best things you can do for your own kind of censorship proofing is actually the relationship with your neighbors, right?
Yes.
The ability that you can go and purchase things directly from people that you know without any sort of intermediary in Bitcoin, that you have people that can support you, that you can directly talk with. I think that's a really good one. And then of course, Nostr as well too. So privacy tools, Liquid Lightning, talk to your community, BitChat, eCash, and Nostr.
Yeah, that's a solid laundry list there, and we'll definitely. Oh, I'd love to see comments of people afterwards down below as well. If there's a censorship-resistant tool that you think is incredibly valuable, then make sure you comment on the video and let us know, because that will help us inform ourselves and be able to build out that learn page even more to make people more self-sovereign, because we're really going to pour some effort into that page. So with that, though, we are going to change gears once more on the other side of things. Man, this Knots Core, it is getting out of hand, and the amount of soul searching that I have to do as people that I typically disagree with are saying things that I agree with, and people that I typically agree with are saying things that really irk me. Everything is upside down. So we're going to chat about that on the other side of the hop. If you guys are enjoying the conversation, make sure you drop a like. By the way, what was it, 40-something%, Nathan?
It is 43% of you guys are not subscribed to the channel.
If you have not, then make sure you do. It also hugely helps, assuming YouTube's still here.
Yeah.
Either way, we'll be back on the other side of the jump. We're going to talk about what kind of ass backwards drama is happening with Knots versus Core. And also, for those that are brand new, what the hell is that and what do you need to be concerned about? We'll be right back. Looking for a simple and secure way to manage your Bitcoin on mobile? AQUA Wallet has you covered. It's user-friendly and puts you in full control of your Bitcoin with secure self-custody. AQUA also supports Lightning and Liquid Network, making fast, cheap Bitcoin payments and asset transfers easier than ever. Plus, it even supports stablecoins, giving you ultimate flexibility. Built on open source code, AQUA is transparent, trustworthy, and perfect for beginner and pros alike. Ready to upgrade your Bitcoin experience? Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen now to download AQUA Wallet today. Securing your Bitcoin doesn't have to be complicated or invasive. With NUNCHUK's HONEYBADGER plan, you get state-of-the-art multisig with built-in inheritance planning and no KYC required. NUNCHUK is trusted by users to secure billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The HONEYBADGER plan offers 204 assisted multisig, guiding you step by step on mobile or desktop. It works seamlessly with hardware wallets like TapSigner, ColdCard, Jade, and plenty of others, so you're always in control. Plus, with non-KYC inheritance planning, you can ensure your Bitcoin goes to your loved ones. No private info needed. Take control of your Bitcoin today. Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen to check out the HONEYBADGER plan. CoinKite has been in the game for years, creating hands down the best and most secure hardware when it comes to securing your Bitcoin. The ColdCard Q is an absolute powerhouse and my daily driver, and it's ideal for newcomers and advanced users alike. The TapSigner gives you a low-cost, user-friendly option for those just getting started or for convenience when traveling. You can head to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for discounts, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to get started right away. All right, we are back in, and let's chat some core versus knots. For the uninitiated, those that don't understand what we're talking about, it's obviously important once you get the technical chops to learn how to run a Bitcoin node. This is a copy of the entire history of Bitcoin's transactions, and it also bakes in the rule set, the rules that govern the network. How do things work? How many Bitcoin will there ever be? How do transactions work? How frequently do they settle? All of that stuff. And there's been a lot of back and forth about a change that is moving forward on the most used implementation of Bitcoin software called Bitcoin Core. Bitcoin Core has typically had, 90, on the high 90 something percent.
99%. I'm fairly certain that if I remember correctly, knots was sub 1% before this kind of ramping up. And there was a few other little iterations, but you're looking at like 98, 99%. It was basically unanimous.
Yeah. So most people were running this. Some were running some iterations of Bitcoin D or something like that. But, and knots was very, very small. Well, there's been, there's a change moving forward that changes the limits on what's known as op return. And the long and the short of it is it allows additional data to be easily attached and used in Bitcoin, which opens up things to like the ordinals and all of these different kind of like tokens and things like that within Bitcoin. And a number of people are upset because this can also have a crunch effect on fees when it gets busy, or when some random project that is very speculative goes and launches. It can fill up the blocks and cause fees to bump up. And if you're trying to use Bitcoin as money at that time, sometimes you get a little bit screwed. We have a local market that we do here in Calgary a couple times a year. And actually during one of the big spikes during ordinals launching something, I can't remember what it was. It doesn't matter because it's not worth anything anymore. But either way, there was some big launch in ordinals, and the day that we had the market, fees were like 60 or 70 bucks on Bitcoin per transaction that day. Luckily, we had the wherewithal to teach most people at the market in advance that they should be using Lightning, which is fast and cheap and instant. And so most of us didn't really notice that day. But if you were on chain and you needed to move something, you were kind of screwed. Long and the short of it is Knots is allowing people to filter things and try and not relay certain transactions that have non-transactional data. Now,
unmonetary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Non-monetary data. Now, there's a lot of nuance here. There needs to be a certain threshold, a high threshold of Knots nodes to truly effectively filter out a lot of this stuff. But let's take a look. Right now, there are almost 21% of reachable nodes right now are Knots. And Core is below 79%. And so, as we said before, this is pretty unprecedented, Core being that low. And so this is an indication that there's a non-trivial subset of Bitcoiners that are upset about the changes that are being proposed and are moving forward. So what is the latest in this back and forth? Well, last week we were chatting. Did Michael Saylor just take a shot at Bitcoin Core because he was saying all these things like, if I wanted to ruin Bitcoin, I would get a bunch of well-meaning developers and pay them around the clock to try and make Bitcoin better. That's how I would kill Bitcoin. And he's he leans heavy towards conservative approach with Bitcoin. And so this is a previous interview that Peter McCormick did with Michael Saylor. Now, he posts this yesterday. He says, first, do no harm to Bitcoin. Now, this kind of goes and talks a lot about the conservative approach to development and all of that. But I don't know if he retweeted this from somebody else. I do not know if he saw the last frame. But there's been lots of people that commented like, hey, did you notice the last frame of this? Did you mean to share this again? I don't know if he's responded yet, but let's just take a look at that last. It says, protect the network, don't F with the network, run knots. And he shared this to his main account. Now, I don't know if this was an intern that did that, but it's remained up, and a lot of people asking about it. Now, there has been more interesting stuff happening here. So Greg Maxwell is a pretty prolific Bitcoiner. He's been around forever. He's done a lot of amazing work for Bitcoin. He had a bit of a spicy take the other day on the Bitcoin mailing list. And so this is Chris, and he wrote in the mailing list, hey, Adam, this is a very interesting proposal. It certainly has the potential to reduce tension over mempool policy by removing decisions over mempool policy from Bitcoin Core's maintainers who, if I understand correctly, are not very interested in being the arbiters of policy over the Bitcoin network anyways. This seems like an excellent way to let users decide which transactions they will relay and which they won't, which core maintainers have no control over anyway. I'm cautiously optimistic that this proposal can break the logjam. Greg, I'm somewhat confused as to your reaction here. This proposal democratizes access to filter authorship. It does not seem in any way authoritarian to me. On the contrary, it seems less authoritarian than the current state of affairs, so on and so forth. Anyways, the response from Greg Maxwell. It's a doozy. If you have a need to regulate traffic through your node, there is one simple, perfectly effective way: blocks only. Any other way is ineffective, dramatically so if you wish to reduce traffic, as filtering generally doesn't, and has collateral damage potential. From the discussion in public, the motivation to do otherwise is an attempt to regulate the conduct of third parties, or what other people do. This is fundamentally authoritarian. It would be authoritarian even if implemented in a distributed way. Example, if a theocratic populist movement acted to prohibit for any purpose except reproduction, as advocated by the most prominent filter proponents, such as by public stonings of people caught fornicating, it would be just as authoritarian as if established by a dictator. In my view, the fundamental nature of authoritarianism is people who believe they know better to such an extent that they actively interfere with the consensual conduct of third parties. He goes on some more. I don't know if I'm going to read all of this here. Down at the bottom, he quotes Chris and says, which is that the core maintainers decide all the defaults. He says, defaults, well, duh. Yes, any author of software decides its defaults, and that is unchanged in the proposal, nor does it change persons' ability to change their node behavior, as adjustments to policy are quite simply, and with the LLMs that power most filter advocates' arguments, even a non-programmer can adjust them. What it does accomplish over that is the ability to take a live feed of censorship rules from a third party. So he's obviously not a fan. A little upset. Now, I want to show a couple other things. So I like Greg Maxwell. I don't know if I agree with his stance here necessarily. Earlier, I kind of thought this way, but now not as much. Now, I want to bring up somebody that I've had a lot of disagreements with, and funny enough, I kind of a lot agree here. Udi, oh Lord, let's go. What can you say? This guy is right. By the way, he's quoting George Bodine,
Who is amazing.
Who is amazing, and he's ranting about the next Bitcoin core. He says, what can you say? This guy is right. Sure, I'd argue that he's being emotional, and it's not Core's job to make him feel safe in conferences, and it's not their fault. He's afraid of wizards. That's the main thing that George doesn't like about what he said.
Probably.
Anyway, yeah. I'd also argue that child thing is not a threat. They said the same thing would happen 2 years ago with ordinals, but it didn't. But even if he's wrong about it, that at least he's being genuine. But he's right about the most important point. Core is effing this up. They're burning bridges for no reason whatsoever. They did fuck up with Taproot. It was a stupid, needless upgrade with no real usage. Keep in mind, this is coming from somebody whose avatar is him as a Taproot wizard. He is part of @Taproot Wizards. Okay, keep this in mind. He says they did fuck up with Taproot. It was a stupid, needless upgrade with no real usage other than JPEGs and shitcoins from the guy that made the JPEGs and shitcoins.
Shitcoins.
Went and used Taproot to do so. Continuing, they wasted years and millions of dollars building it and telling us how great it was, and then it turned out to be an irrelevant mess. You'd think after that they'd take a step back and try and figure out where they went wrong, but instead they're doubling down on even stupider bullshit. Who even asked for bigger op returns? Nobody. Maxi-approved protocols sure as hell didn't. Citria didn't. By the way, Citria is Jameson Lops. He's part of that company. Citria even didn't. The whole thing is a myth. And even if they did ask for it, why should anyone care what Citria wants? But they didn't ask for it. Hell, even if Spammer-in-Chief Udi Wizardheimer didn't ask for it. So why do it? So many people oppose it. Why the hell do it? Yes, I understand the technical arguments and generally agree with them. It's not a risky change, but people think that it is. Why is Core trying to educate the community? When did they get voted in for that role? It's a change nobody wants, so just don't make it. But at this point, they don't know how to climb off the tree, so they won't. They'll continue to paternalize everyone and insinuate that nobody knows anything other than they do, even though they obviously fucked up with Taproot, and they'll burn every last drop of minimal goodwill left just so they don't have to get off their high horse. And the op return limit will be gone, and the NOTS filters won't work, and nobody will ever trust them with anything ever again. It'll probably be one of the last releases of Core that sees significant adoption, and we'll have lost our ability to make upgrades and changes that matter because they had to burn all the bridges for an upgrade nobody asked for again. That's
right,
man. What do you think here?
Ego is a hell of a drug. Like, I agree that like there probably is an ego element to some extent, and I'm not trying to say that in a like demeaning way, in the sense that it's if you've gone so hard at something, it's really hard to pivot on it. I'll take an extreme example, so please forgive me. But if you were a doctor in the business of getting rid of fetuses, and then you had a come to Jesus moment and went like, oh wait, that may have been killing children, your ego would never let you do that, because it'd be kind of soul crushing to have the flip. Now that's an extreme example, but if you've spent so much time talking about this and how it's so important, to actually be able to pivot is really hard for someone to do. Now, things backing up for a second that I did want to touch on is, one, this is my favorite season of Bitcoin so far. It's been an absolute soap opera drama, and I love it. Number two, let's not forget here that Bitcoiners are like a subset of libertarians, more or less. I know we welcome everybody and it's money for everybody, but like in the at least the most vocal community, that's what it is, which means that they'll agree on 99.9% of everything, but they'll want to fucking kill each other on that 0.1%. So just nature of the beast there. And then, oh man, what was the other part I was going to touch on? It was essentially in Udi's points there. I think he's right that like, while there is a benefit in the sense that them losing trust is kind of a good idea, in the sense that don't trust, verify, having multiple client implementations, not being just reliant on developers or maintainers to take care of these things for you. It probably is better in the long run. However, I do think, especially we're still so early in Bitcoin. Having goodwill with the leading client maintainers to make some changes should something come up, I think is still a benefit or still nascent, but he's probably right. There probably really isn't a coming back from this necessarily.
Yeah, it's tricky.
I got one more quick. I just struck me again. I apologize. The other thing that I did want to add on the Gregory Maxwell comments is I disagree. Analogies are a bad way of communicating things or making arguments, at least. But I think the reason I disagree is he's right that you shouldn't be able to tell two consenting adults what they can or cannot do. However, that does change if two consenting adults, third parties, are trying to do it in my bedroom. If they're doing it in my bedroom, I'm going to tell them to get the hell out. And so if you're doing it in my node on my server that I own, I'm going to tell you to get the hell out. But you can do whatever you like on yours.
That's fair. That's fair. You should be able to run whatever the hell you want. Absolutely. And just to give an idea of how wild like the back and forth and like the odd things coming out of different people's mouths that I would not have expected. Giacomo Zucco, who I love, go back in time and tell my 2014 self that 11 years later, I would retweet a shitcoin casino chairman while being disgusted by Gregory Maxwell. I would laugh so hard at you. Life is truly mysterious. And here he is retweeting the chairman of Binance that said Bitcoin is decentralized sound money. Knots. What is this timeline? What is happening? It's something. Anyways, okay. So for the people viewing, what do you do? Well, I mean, you can decide what you want to run. It's completely up to you. If you're going to run a node, you can run it on your desktop computer. You can run it on a dedicated device like a Start9. Some people like Umbrel because of the interface. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. The idea is that you point your wallets at your node and your copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, and that's where you get your transaction data. If you prefer Knots' approach, run Knots. If you prefer Core, run Core. You choose. You know, we've seen an uptick in Knots. Will that continue? We'll see. And we'll continue to talk about it. But, you know, running a node is a good idea. And I do like the idea of having multiple implementations. So with that, I am running short on time, but I want to get to a couple exciting things that happen. So if you want to learn how to run Knots or Core, check the channel. There's tutorials on both. So have at her.
If you need help, we can help you.
Yeah, 100%. Reach out to Bitcoin Mentor. They're also on that Learn page. So be sure to check it out. Okay, a couple last quick things that went down here. Really cool. So on the eCash, Cashew, super private Bitcoin transactions front, Macadamia wallet was just released. It has an iMessage extension now that allows you to send eCash to other users in a sleek, approachable way. No more wall of gibberish. So basically, it allows you to send Bitcoin privately over iMessage to people, which is super cool. That's pretty sweet. I like that. This is Ed, one of our mentors, tweeting it out. Really cool. I don't have an iPhone. I'm on Android, but this is something that I would like to really check out. Also, early in the week, dropped a tutorial on MiniScript, which is customizable and either, you know, basically a multisig wallet that is ideal for things like passing on sats to your family, and you can set the parameters of what happens with the keys over time. So maybe your family member has a key that doesn't work right now, but suddenly it will work in the future and they can use it to unlock funds if something were to ever happen to you. That's kind of a layman's explanation, but check out the tutorial. Lots of stuff to play with there. Also, Nathan, you had an awesome episode just the other day. Want to talk about it quick?
I did, yeah. Gary and I sat down with the always wonderful Bitcoin monk, Jeff Booth, and had a wonderful time chatting with him. Interestingly enough, he's made some big changes in his life. He's thinking a lot more kind of adversarial about what might be coming. And it was really interesting to get his perspective on, one, he did talk about this a little bit, and also the Knots for Score thing, as well as the risks he sees to the network.
Awesome. Now, Nathan, I'm going to keep it with you because you were adamant that I add this in. We've got a running segment. It's the Canada Sucks segment.
It's just like the goose that keeps on giving us golden eggs.
Yeah. So let's chat really quickly here about the latest and greatest. There's a couple tabs here, but I'll let you fill us in on what we are looking at right here from Ben.
Beautiful. From the wonderful Ben Rabideau, another a wonderful kind of a macroeconomist outlook in real estate and stuff in Canada, but essentially showing how during the election, it was all about Trump. The number one issue was the U.S. and Trump and tariffs, when it, of course, never should have been. And we got the wonderful Mark Carney as a result. But oh, look at that. It seems to have completely shifted to focusing on the economy, inflation, and immigration. So nice to see the elbows up crowd there has pivoted to what was really important from the beginning.
That is pretty funny. And what's the second one here? Oh man, Toronto is not looking so hot. What's going on here?
So we've got only 118 new condos sold in August, down 90%. Just showing you that that Toronto kind of dog crate in the sky market has absolutely tanked. And the worst part is, not only does it at 90% of the 10-year average in terms of what is moving, but you need almost 200K income to qualify for a condo, for a dog crate. It's absolutely ridiculous. Just another illustration of how Canada has just gone completely off the rails. Our real estate market is screwed.
Yeah. Well, good time to be Canadian. Maybe move to Alberta. Actually, what depends?
Yeah.
Don't move to Alberta and vote for the policies of Ontario, please.
That's true. Come here if you're not going to bring that crap with you, please and thank you.
Yeah, come here and vote independence. I digress. Now, this next thing and this last thing that I want to show is purely just scratching my own itch because I thought it was super funny. From our good friend Yellow. He put together this clip. I guess Dennis Porter had some breaking news that he was teasing all week. Now, side note, I've met Dennis. I've chatted with him in person, and I found him to be a super nice guy, and I like chatting with him. I know people get riled up from his posts. But anyways, Yellow did a fantastic job grabbing some stuff from South Park and then dubbing his voice over it. So let's just take a look at Dennis's big emotional. He said, "I'm really emotional after the historic breaking news from Dennis Porter. We just witnessed history in the making." Here we go.
Basically, a guy that likes Bitcoin is gonna run for governor for California or something.
For later. Anyways, with that, we'll round out here. This has been a great one. Thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. If you're brand new to the channel, of course, welcome. And don't forget to subscribe. And as always, make sure that you check out our Learn page. Again, I'll play a clip at the end. Very important that you not just celebrate how awesome Bitcoin is, but you actually use it in a self-sovereign way. So for now, I'm Ben. This was Nathan. And again, this was your weekly session. We will see you guys for the next one. Hey, you. Yes, you watching the Bitcoin price movements and the latest exciting news. It's awesome to stay informed, but the real power of Bitcoin comes from taking control. Don't just watch, take action. Head over to btcsessions.ca/learn for free step-by-step tutorials that guide you through every major skill you need to know, plus full video playlists for deeper dives on any topic you like. And if you're ready for the ultimate fast track, scroll to the bottom and check out bitcoinmentor.io for premium one-on-one experience with my team of Bitcoin experts to ensure you get it right the first time. Don't wait. Secure your Bitcoin future today. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen.